This week in gaming, Nintendo is discontinuing the NES Classic, Endless Space 2 is coming out on May 19th, Shu is coming to the PlayStation Vita on May 23rd, the puzzler Fez is coming to iOS this year, Reddit's massive collaborative art project Place says hello, having produced some awesome Chrono Trigger fan art along with a few choice messages, them being, "Can you tell my family I miss them and that I'm sorry?" from Hobo Jojo, "Church dies in the end, according to Tears of LA, "Trust the process," and "Beep Beep Lettuce." By the way, Cadet Jackal of Spades says hello. Physical copies of Rocket League have surpassed 1 million units sold, and we're back on the air. This is 1RBC Gaming Weekly. First off, this week Nintendo held a Nintendo Direct. Now, in case you're new to gaming, what you should know is that these are Nintendo's showcases for games and hardware that are broadcast online every couple months. In this week's Direct, Nintendo showcased upcoming Switch and 3DS games. They started with the game Hey, Pikmin, a platformer coming to the Nintendo 3DS in which Captain Olimar has crash-landed on a world full of friendly sentient plant creatures. Again. And they help him put his spaceship back together. Again. That's pretty much the story of every Pikmin game, but what sets this one apart is that it isn't a top-down RTS, rather it's a platformer with some strategic elements. That said, you will be tossing your Pikmin around. Hopefully it works well when Hey Pikmin comes out on July 28th. Coming out later this year is Monster Hunter Stories, which is a Monster Hunter game in which you actually get to ride and befriend monsters instead of just hunting them. You can raise them up, steal their eggs, and raise new ones. It has some turn-based RPG-style battles rather like that of Pokemon. Indeed, it's like what would happen if Monster Hunter were mashed up with Pokemon. Now, this game was released in Japan for the 3DS last October. It'll be seeing a Western release sometime this autumn. 2017 marks the 25th anniversary of the Kirby franchise. Right after the Direct, Kirby Clash Deluxe was launched on the 3DS. This is a game that Nintendo is describing as free to start. Essentially, there's in-game currency that can be purchased with real money, or earned slowly through gameplay. Regarding the gameplay itself, it's a class-based multiplayer co-op platformer. You pick a role, team up with 3 other folks, and take on bosses. From what I've been hearing, the freemium elements aren't too egregious, so if you've been looking for a new Kirby game and you don't feel like paying money for it, check out Kirby Clash Deluxe.
Hi there, ladies and gents. I'm Biff, your trusty ARMS commentator.
Nintendo showed off gameplay for the upcoming comedic boxing game ARMS, a game in which pugilists throw punches from 20 feet away using their ridiculous spring-loaded arms. During the Direct, Nintendo also unveiled a new character, Min Min, whose arms are ramen noodles. I honestly never thought I'd say that on the air.
Min Min is one spicy noodle-wielding fighter.
ARMS is coming to the Switch on June 16, 2017. Also, Nintendo unveiled these ugly as sin yellow Joy-Cons for the Switch, which are also being released on June 16th. I'm sorry if you dig the look of these, but I can't bear them. In an announcement that shocked absolutely nobody, Minecraft is set to be released on the Switch digitally on May 11th. A physical release is coming out at a later date. Usually at this point in the show, I would explain just what Minecraft is in case you're coming out of a coma and the first thing you wanted to do was watch a game news show. However, Minecraft is so popular that I'm certain you've heard of it even if you've been asleep for 25 years. Lastly, and most excitingly, they showed off more of Splatoon 2, using this wonderfully nostalgic video that just oozes VHS. Speaking as a fan of the original Splatoon, I'm excited for the new game, as it introduces a new mode, Salmon Run. In this 4-player co-op mode, players paint a notably more dismal environment as they hunt for salmonid eggs. They get these from creatures that are notably less cute than the Inklings. Once players have collected enough, they get to return home to Inkopolis and spend these eggs. In addition to this new mode, it seems that Splatoon 2 also has some expanded social functionality. The game is set to be released on July 21st, 2017 for the Nintendo Switch. Now, Nintendo has been seeing a lot of success with the Switch. Their latest console has sold nearly 2.5 million units worldwide and over 906,000 units in March in the United States alone. Thus far, it's Nintendo's fastest-selling system. However, the Switch hasn't been Nintendo's only recent hardware success. They've also sold a lot of the NES Classic, a home console that's modeled on the old Nintendo Entertainment System that comes with NES games built in. The device sold over 1.5 million units, far better, it seems, than Nintendo is anticipating. It's still sold out in most places, and instead of increasing the supply of the NES Classic, Nintendo is getting rid of it. In a statement made to IGN, a Nintendo spokesperson said that the NES Classic Edition wasn't intended to be an ongoing long-term product. However, due to high demand, we did add extra shipments to our original plans. Speaking as a fan of Nintendo, this doesn't surprise me, but it does disappoint me. Nintendo's inflexibility is to their detriment. They're like Apple if Apple drew the wrong conclusions from its market research. I have friends, non-gamer friends, mind you, who want the NES Classic, but haven't been able to find it anywhere. Why would Nintendo pull such a successful device off the market? It may be a case of farts, that is, forced, artificial scarcity. Much like when Disney would put their movies in the so-called Disney Vault, taking a thing that's in high demand and making it hard to get in order to keep demand high. Perhaps in a couple years we'll see a new NES Classic with other games, or maybe we'll see an SNES Classic. What do you think? Is Nintendo making a dumb decision, or is this brilliant but frustrating business? Hit us up on Twitter at OneRuleBeCool and let us know. Moving on to other consoles, Microsoft has announced that they'll be unveiling Project Scorpio in whole during E3 this year. Now, in case you've not heard of it, Project Scorpio is the codename for their upcoming version of the Xbox One that will have more power than the base model. It is known that it'll allow you to play your games in 4K, and supposedly you'll be able to use it with a VR headset, sort of like Microsoft's version of the PSVR, though we really don't have details on that. Last week, the technical specifications for Project Scorpio were unveiled. While the base model Xbox One ships with 8GB of RAM and an 8-core x86 CPU with its cores clocked at 1.75 GHz, Project Scorpio has 12GB of RAM and 2.3 GHz on the CPU. Would you like to blindly speculate on Project Scorpio? Shoot us your thoughts on Twitter at OneRuleBeCool, and if your wild ideas about Microsoft's upcoming hardware are clever or interesting, we'll be sure to share them. The Landesmedienanstalt, sorry, my German's a little rusty. The Landesmedienanstalt, that is the German equivalent of the FCC, responsible for broadcasting legislation in Deutschland, has ruled that online streamers will require a broadcasting license, which costs thousands of euros. The reasoning behind this is to prevent TV stations from claiming to be streamers in an attempt to exempt themselves from the laws. However, the Landesmedienanstalt is quite aware that the rules are somewhat outdated when it comes to broadcasting and the internet, and they're currently working on a solution that will prevent TV and radio broadcasters from taking advantage of this huge loophole. The reason we're talking about German broadcasting law on a show about video games is because this can have a pretty massive effect on the world of video game live streaming. If you're into the esports scene, for instance, and you broadcast your games live on Twitch, guess what? This law applies to you. German YouTuber and streamer Pitchmeet has been informed that he needs to apply for a license or face the consequences. Frankly, I'm not sure what to think of this whole affair. On the one hand, online streaming is still a bit of a Wild West, and legislation may be important in order to curb unethical behavior. On the other hand, charging money for expensive licenses in order for people to practice what should be an affordable hobby seems like more money and difficulty than it's worth. After all, a pretty good chunk of streamers are broke kids with Xboxes. Are they really in a position to buy a €1,000 broadcasting license? This has the potential to set Germany behind on the esports scene, which, spoiler warning, is very focused on visibility. If an amendment is not found soon, this has the potential to crush all but the biggest German streamers and esports teams. A new Overwatch event went live this week. Titled Uprising, it brings new cosmetics and, excitingly enough, a new mode in which players form up in teams of 4 and hold off against waves of incredibly impolite robots in the streets of London. The game is set a bit earlier in the history of Overwatch. I've played some of the mode, and thus far, I dig it. It's more active than Junkenstein's Revenge, as you're actually moving around through the map. It really feeds into the way that Blizzard has been unveiling the lore of Overwatch. While they've largely stuck to revealing the game's story through comics and cinematics, the way that they're making these pieces of the game's story playable through seasonal modes is quite neat. This Uprising mode will last until May 1st, 2017. In game releases this week, the hotly anticipated 3D platformer Yooka-Laylee came out at long last, and it's gotten a less than stellar critical response, though it seems that many of the fans are generally enjoying it. Now, Yooka-Laylee was a huge hit on Kickstarter. Developed by Playtonic, it's the spiritual successor to the Banjo-Kazooie series, which is widely regarded as the best of the 3D collectathon platformers that was popular a few console generations ago. Now, in this game, you get to play as the titular characters, Yooka and Laylee, who are a lizard and bat respectively. With your different abilities, you solve puzzles and go on adventures and such, all in a wonderfully whimsical world full of mini-games and challenges. It's all in a day's work for this interspecies duo. While the game improves on the formula from the old games in some ways mechanically, in other ways it seems to be so insistent on elements from yesteryear that it becomes a chore to play. In a lot of ways, it's the best and worst of yesterday's games. While it's a charming and aesthetically pleasing game, you might be disappointed if you walk into it expecting something totally fresh. Yooka-Laylee is well worth checking out if you're a huge fan of the Banjo-Kazooie series and would like to relive the experience, warts and all, albeit with a fresh coat of paint. Yooka-Laylee is available on Mac, Windows, Linux, the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and at some point in the future, the Nintendo Switch. Not the Wii U, however. Playtonic decided that Nintendo's failed console wasn't worth developing for, and they thus cancelled the port. If you kickstarted the game for the Wii U, you were given the option to switch over to another platform, or to wait to upgrade to the Switch version. Playtonic never specified if this upgrade would cost additional money. That doesn't really bode well, honestly. When's the last time you got a free upgrade to anything? Have you been playing Yooka-Laylee, and if so, what do you think about it? Hit us up on Twitter at OneRuleBeCool. If you're in the market for a 2D platformer, you may want to check out Slime-san, which was released on Steam this week and has a rather interesting aesthetic. It seems to combine modern resolutions and pixel artistry techniques with some older styles. Just look at that beautiful dithering. It's as though the developers have forgotten that we have more than 16 colors to work with. It's generally been getting positive reception. If you're looking for a challenging retro-y platformer with plenty of levels, something in the vein of Super Meat Boy, but a little more Commodore, Slime-san may be right for you. It's currently available for Mac, Windows, and Linux. A game that was released a few weeks back that sort of flew under the radar is Gemstone Keeper. Now, full disclosure, I have spoken with its developer on Twitter. He's a person who's read my book, Playing the Press, and I have given him advice on marketing his game. That said, I'm talking about his game because it caught my attention. If I didn't believe in this game, I wouldn't be sharing it with you right now. Getting back to Gemstone Keeper, it's a twin-stick shmup about collecting gems. What really has my eye is the game's art style. Now, retro aesthetics aren't entirely uncommon these days, but it is pretty unusual to see ASCII art. Thus far, Gemstone Keeper hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but it seems that the folks who've played it have really enjoyed it. If you get the chance, be sure to check out Gemstone Keeper. It's available on Steam for Windows. A crowdfunding project that caught our eye this week was for the upcoming Elon Musk's Hyperloop. Wait, that's not the title? Oh, okay, sorry. The name of the game is actually Hoverloop. It's a multiplayer robot dueling game in which everybody's in control of a customizable hovering drone. Something that the developers are pushing hard here is split screen. It's meant to be played up close and personal with your friends. The developers have plans to release the game with an online mode if their Kickstarter succeeds, along with a few other features. Hoverloop is currently in development for Windows and Xbox One. The game's going into pre-alpha in June, and it's set to be released in full January 2018. VR rhythm game Airtone caught my eye this week. Currently in development for the Oculus Rift, it's an anime-y dance game that's kinda like Dance Dance Revolution, but for your arms. I enjoy anime, and I enjoy Dance Central, but this game doesn't really seem as though it'll be my kind of thing. That said, I do dig the insane neon aesthetic, as it reminds me of Lovely Planet, and it's neat to see that this sort of game is coming to VR. You can apply for its closed beta until April 19th. This beta is set to take place between late April and early May, and yes, you will need an Oculus Rift if you'd like to play it. We'll have a link to register for the beta at onerillbecool.com. If you happen to be going to the VR LA event, the game will be playable there. Finally, we leave you with the latest trailer for the upcoming Tumbleseed, a roly roguelike that's set to be released on May 2nd for Mac, Windows, PS4, and Switch. That's it for this week's episode. For all the greatest game news, be sure to follow at OneRuleBeCool on Twitter and Instagram. Follow me at Jordan_Cameron for my own views.
It's a game about placing blocks and going on adventures. We're happy to confirm that limited quantities of the standalone Nintendo Switch dock will be available for purchase May 19th. You can hook up an extra dock to a separate TV, so you can switch from one to the other without unplugging your main setup. If you're interested, it's available at participating retailers or head to store.nintendo.com.